what we are doing for us. It was about cultural intelligence, about female leaders, about recruiting, about financial literacy. So our goal here is our volunteering deal, and we decided that we want to do community with the women for whom interesting to grow in culture, to grow in their professional sphere, and to speak about topics what is interesting for us too. And when we thought this is our events, you can find yourself sometimes here. And there are our Ivana, she's our leader she went in Capital Factory, she lives in California, and she went to us to see Austin too. She's leader of Wtech in United States. Yeah, she's from San Francisco, sorry. About our next topics, so this is screen of my phone, and to find what will be the next, you can tap on this link, and you will find our calendar. And if you will tap there and subscribe on it, you will see our next events, our next topics, and updates what will be on the future. Because we want to speak about another interesting topics, maybe about mothers in professional, and about career and so on. It's our global photos. So when we spoke about the next topic, we thought everybody of us, when we arrive here in Austin, when we start new career, we always think about how to build communications. And we decided, this topic is always actual, and a lot of people ask us about this. Let's talk about this with leaders of Austin communities. And I'm super appreciate that these three wonderful women come to us and share with us their stories. It's super interesting for me. As for me, I will maybe introduce the first speaker, Sherry. When I arrived in Austin, the first event where I come, it was Fiesta, and it was super cool because I saw that there are a lot of great people, so a lot of great another people in business who can open and share their experience. So thank you for this. Thank you for sharing this. And I will give the next words to my colleague Yulia, and she will tell about her stories. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Lucy, for the intro. Hi, everyone. We're super happy to see you today. Thank you for taking time. This is our event before the break. We're going to go on a break during the summer and come back in September. But yes, today's topic is the community and relationship, and how the community can help us and empower us, and what we can seek and find in the community. And it's an honor to have these amazing ladies today with us. Each of them has like a very multi-dimensional career journey and story, and their range of interest is just immense, like great. So let me introduce all of these wonderful ladies first. So Lucy mentioned already, we have to my left first here, Sherry Werner, Startup Mama. The Startup Mama, she just got the award, I think, couple of days ago, also like the best women like helping startups in Austin community. This is the first go-to person when you move to Austin. She leads Fiesta community for founders and entrepreneurs. She like the first question they normally ask in their events, when I of course went to like, how long have you been to Austin? And you can hear people who live here for 2-3 years, and there are people that have been in Austin 2 hours. They literally just arrive, got off their plane, and Fiesta is their first go-to place. So literally, Startup Mama, founder, she founder of the Fiesta community. And beside this startup and entrepreneur community Fiesta, there's also Found Her community for female founders. So if you're a business, a woman in business, you are a small or medium enterprise owner or a big enterprise owner, Sherry is definitely your go-to. She will connect you with all the people possible in Austin, and she is doing that with her whole heart. So applause for our first speaker, Sherry. Next, we're gonna go and move to our Susanna. Susanna is a local chapter lead for Women in Product. Are here product managers, product people here? Okay. Oh, couple. Okay. Women in Product is the global organization, and Susanna is the lead here in Austin. I've met her in one of the mega product meetups that they organize, so just mark it up. A very decent event. But besides that, she's a community leader for other activities, and it would be probably hard to guess, but those are communities for cyclists. So if you like to hit the road on the bike, she is your go-to. Like if you think of what to do during the weekend, Saturday, Sunday, I don't know the schedule, she will probably share later on. And also if you're a parent who want to have your kids cycling with you, that's another meetup and events that she's hosting. So applause for Susanna. And on the very left, in an amazing suit from a Ukrainian designer, is Nicole Pletka. She has a really stunning career. She started in anthropology, and then she ended up having a stunning career in also project and program management, portfolio management, and besides that, she is the president of Austin Women in Technology community. She hosts tons of events. I think the events, programs, supports various events that happen in Austin. I've been a member of Austin Women in Technology for 2 years. As I mentioned to Nicole today, that's where I met my best friend here in Austin. Great place to have deep conversations for women in tech where you can relate. They have various events. I'm pretty sure Nicole is going to share more on cadency and types of the events, but she's a great person and does a lot for women here in Austin. So again, kudos to Nicole. And now that we know, and I'm with Wtech in marketing, but I'm not the topic of the conversation today, so I just want to move us into things that all of us are really curious about. And since I already presented our leaders, I would like to know, how did they end up with this life? How did they become community leaders? What are the stories? Tell us all the things out there. Shri, you want to start?
Oh my gosh. I was just talking to Nicole, and she thought I'd been doing this for a long time, but I actually started 4 years ago with Fiesta, and it was a way to give back to the community as we were coming out of COVID. And there were so many people moving here to Austin, and I realized that I could gather them together, because it's like I would rather die living than continue being isolated, and I think a lot of people were just done with COVID. And so I just said, hey, we're going to meet, and Capital Factory offered us their facility downstairs because we were a portfolio company at the time. It was called Koya. I was doing that with my husband and 2 daughters, and that's how Fiesta began. It was just a way to bring people together, and we've just iterated as we've gone, looked at what the needs are, and have added to what we do each month. But I'm very consistent in my format. We meet always on the 3rd Tuesday. Our founders came a year later. That's always on the 1st Tuesday. I have wonderful people like Nicole who are facilitators. And I just believe in empowering people to find what is going to benefit them. It's not about what we're doing. It's about, hey, we're a great place to land. I love welcoming you to my city. I'm a Texan. I was born in Texas, so I want to welcome you to Austin. And that's what I've had the joy of doing for the past 4 years.
Thank you. Just also a really important note, at least for me, I know that during Shari's event, you can pitch your startup, and Shari really tries hard to make it like gender balanced. So if you are a founder or you know a founder who's like a female, that's going to be great because we want more women in business. We want more women founders. Please share this information. They can apply and pitch for the audience. What is the normal audience for Fiesta events? It's like 100 people more?
200.
Yeah.
We have 200, and it's all about helping people to be seen. And I mean, I have 3 daughters, so I'm kind of biased. I want women to show up, but you have to show up. I mean, how many of you are founders? You have your own business and stuff. I mean, Nicole has actually pitched at Fiesta, and she can share her experience of it. But it's not just even pitching. It's you get to pitch, then we elevate you in our newsletter that goes out to over 7,000 subscribers, and then you're on my radar. And if you're on my radar, I'm following what wins you have in elevating those wins in our newsletter that goes out, because we want you to be seen, and it's just little things of putting wind in your sails to move forward.
Yeah. Thank you. What about you, Susanna? How did you end up where you are?
Hi, everyone. Susanna, but I also go by Zoo. Hey, you works as well. I ended up in the leadership role for a woman in product completely by accident. Had a friend who was in one of those Austin freezes staying at my house who got asked to pick up the chapter leadership after it kind of died off in COVID, as many did, sort of the in-person events. And she was like, I am maxed out, turned around and said, you want to do it? And I was like, yes. Never thought of being a leader in a community, had no idea what that will look like, how I want to show up, but it got me thinking, how do I want to show up, and how can we shape this community and help everyone? So that was kind of my start with Women in Product. Women in Product is a global organization, as you said, that I'm a chapter lead here in Austin, and really it's aimed at product managers and leaders that identify as women. So it's really empowering for people to meet with, we're the minority out there, and this is one of those groups. So you know how that goes, right? Meeting with folks that really understand what you're going through. We are meeting generally on the third Thursday. However, we are a volunteer organization, as many are, and we want to make it sustainable. So if it's not on the third Thursday, it will be on a day where we can make an event happen. Sometimes it has to do with, we're looking for locations where we can host speaker, kind of pulling it all together. It actually takes a lot of effort. It seems like, it's not a huge event, or, it is just this thing. It took probably a lot of effort to make it happen and make it valuable for folks. So we're doing what we can to meet regularly, but if it's not on the exact day, we're going to meet on a different day. It's a combination of happy hours, so very open-ended, networking events, speaker events like this one, whether it's a panel or whether it's a speaker, whether it's a workshop format, or we also host online events as well, especially when it comes to more technical presentations, demos around AI. It makes it a little bit easier for everybody to interact with that presentation. So we kind of take all the formats into account depending on what is most valuable. And I'll pause there.
And what about the cyclist?
Oh, cyclists, man. So I think when I started leading this group, I kind of caught a bug, and I was like, what else can I do? And I actually got asked previously to lead rides for Rafa. I was a frequent participant myself. Some of the leaders were leaving. They're like, you're always here. I'm like, yeah. Do you want to lead the group? And I was like, what are you talking about? One of those same things, right? Like, who am I to lead the group? I was like, yeah, I guess I could do that. And then if you're familiar, Rafa is one of the sort of premium brands now owned by Walmart, on a full downhill spiral because they did not keep up their premium brand after they got bought out by the Walmart boys who loved cycling, had a lot of money, so bought themselves a brand and destroyed it. So Rafa actually ended up leaving Austin. I'm not really sure where they still open sort of in their pop-up shops. But I continued my cycling leadership with Trek Austin, so leading some rides for them on Wednesdays. And sort of in this entire shuffle of all the things that I decided to lead, I also signed myself up to start a program with another co-lead called Kids on Bikes in Parks, which is a program that is intended for kids to learn how to ride their bike in a safe environment, sort of empowering whether they have a bike or not. We actually got a sponsor. Trek donates some bikes so they can just show up, pick up a bike, and ride it. We have coaches, and so it's a way for them to get away from sort of those screens and learn how to enjoy the outside on two wheels.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think we will collect also the information from all of the organizations and share it in the follow-up email. So if you're interested in participating in any of the events, you're welcome. And you can see how like diverse leaders and diverse organizations we have. And don't be afraid to every time ask people what they actually do for work, but like also after, because you never know. You can be a product leader and also be a cyclist and be a leader in all of those communities and then also serve kids. So yeah, always be open to asking those questions. And Nicole.
I don't know how to ride a bike.
Oh no.
Let me just start with that.
But now you have to go to the kids event.
Honestly, I'm really terrible at riding a bike, but I can do product. Anyway, so what brought me here, where I got to this journey, I started my career many moons ago as an archaeologist, and there was not enough technology to do the kind of statistical research that I wanted to do for my master's thesis. And so I ended up getting into coding to do statistics so that I could prove how right I am about settlement patterns in archaeology. And then long story short, I transitioned into technology, found my passion there. And after having children, one of my children was looking at an end of the year presentation when I was working at a big semiconductor company and said, "Mama, why are you the only girl?" And all I could say was, there's a lot of history behind that, but I'm going to make sure it's different by the time you're my age. And that's what really started my journey into Austin Women in Technology. I had a staff member who was a woman who was giving a presentation for Austin Women in Tech, and I went to support her, started meeting some amazing women there, decided to become a member. Over time, became one of the directors on their board, and then decided a lot of the skills that I have in helping organizations standardize their business practices, I was like, I can actually bring these skills to this nonprofit, and ended up becoming president. So that's my long story short. Now I'm president of Austin Women in Technology, helping that organization grow and behave more like a true company, right? Where we have revenue goals, we have strategic goals, we have mission statements, we have all of those things that are not, super fun to deal with, but have to happen if you want to grow and scale your organization. So I love that I can bring all of those skills to a nonprofit, which is 100% volunteer. It's what I do in my free time. I still do technology, project management, product management. I design systems to help companies become more efficient and find technologies to help them do so. Right now I'm working for an AI company as well as a custom software application development company. But my passion really lies in creating spaces for women in technology where they are the minority to feel open, where they can be vulnerable, where they can find support. And I provide events for all of the awkward introverts like myself to come together, and I give them reasons to talk to one another and get to know one another, and leading to lifelong friendships like some that I have found. So that's me.
Sounds amazing. Yeah, ladies, this is just an incredible work that you're doing, again, all on volunteer-based basis. And really often their events are really frequent. I know they're either quarterly or monthly basis, but I would like to know a bit more. do you have personal stories when the community, when like not leading yet, but being part of some communities, maybe even during back in college or now or recently, your personal one, when community played a huge role in your life? Nicole, you'd like to start?
Oh, sure. I can start. Community has been huge for me. At the beginning of my career, I always thought of myself as a lone wolf, right? Like, I am a loner. I can do it by myself. I'm this independent, badass woman. I can make it happen, right? And it really wasn't until I started showing up at AWT events that I found other women like me, where I didn't feel like an alien anymore, right? I felt like there are other women with this energy and with this passion, and it felt really good, and I felt really supported. It gave me a lot of encouragement to start my startup, that kind of thing. But like personal stories, like a lot of it really started for me when I came to an AWT event at my worst. My marriage at the time was falling apart. My kids were having behavioral issues, and I was like, I need to step out of my life and just go to an event and just pretend like everything's fantastic, right? Because we all put on a show, right? When we go to an event, we all like pretend, we put on our mask and pretend that everything's great, right? And I don't even remember what the prompt was, but there was a question asked, and I just couldn't hold it together, and I just started crying. And another woman at the event was like, "Do you need a friend?" And I was like, I think I do. I think I do. And allowing myself to realize that I needed a support system really helped me grow as a person. And using communities, not just AWT, but also Fiesta, ATC, other things where I've learned and grown, and has really helped me find courage, has helped me be okay with things I don't know, has helped me find what I call my super friends that I can go to when I don't know things but need to pretend like I do. And so that's kind of been like my story and my journey. And honestly, it's gotten me to the career that I have today. Like, I would not be doing the consulting and the contracting if it wasn't for the encouragement and the support that I know I can find from the people in these communities.
Yeah, that's a wonderful story, and thank you for sharing. It's a vulnerable moment that you were in, and it was also very bold and actually courageous of you to step up, as you say. Like, sometimes when you have hard times, you just don't want to step out of your bedroom and like take that blanket out and like go somewhere. You basically faced your fear of talking to people, sharing that, and it's great that there was a community who was ready to support and help. And as I mentioned before, I met my best friend in AWT event. We definitely started with, what do you do and where do you work? But after that, for some reason, I don't know how we end up talking about all of those existential philosophical questions. So you never know whom you're going to meet, but you just have to show up and be there, and magic moments.
It may be because we facilitate the network because we know we're super awkward people in technology. And so we always give you topics to talk about so you don't have to think about it on your own.
Yeah. Maybe that's the secret. What about you, Susanna?
I'd say, I'd say for me, everything started when I started leading in the community. I was one of those awkward attenders. I was that person that thought I need to put on the suit and put the business cards, when business cards were still a thing, in my pocket, and like my little portfolio with resumes, and that's how you show up to these events. Dreaded it every single time. Just like, this is the worst thing. Like, who wants to go to basically an interview every single week and call it fun? This sucks. This sucks so bad. You like put on that face, right? Like, pretend like you're having fun and you're so interested, but when you respond, you gotta say the right thing because that could be the next person that's employing you. I was dreading it. I was dreading the entire thing. And when I started leading the community, it started being fun because I realized I was doing it all wrong. I realized that I was putting on this show. I was not actually making connections. I was interviewing every time I showed up, and I was not making genuine connection. I was pretending, right? And nobody cared. Like, oh, that person with the business card is gonna shove it in my hand again, right? Like, nobody wanted me there, and I didn't want to be there, but I would show up because it's the thing you're supposed to do. So it just took me so long to figure out how to community, if you could make community a verb.
So how? Do you want to share the secret?
Yeah. So for me, I think I turned it around by really thinking about not what I can get out of it, but what can I give others, right? And that coming from this leadership angle, but I actually took that into, this is how I want to lead the entire community for Women in Product in Austin, is you show up, and if you expect, like, what do you have ready for me? I'll be like, what did you bring? Right? Like, what kind of experiences that you can share? And it doesn't mean, like, did you come as a VP of product and now you're going to drop some crazy knowledge on us? Like, maybe you learned something about, like, the hardship of being laid off. Maybe you made a connection. Maybe you know someone and there's someone sitting next to you and you're like, dude, I just got let go, but I do know someone you can connect to. And then they're like, oh yeah, I can connect you to someone else. And so it's really the intent is, who can I help at any given moment, however small, connect them. Maybe I know something, maybe it's just being a friend, right? Being that connection. And if you come with that attitude, I think it's a little bit easier to overcome this weirdness of, like, how do I show up and look smart and be someone that I think people want me to be, and instead I'm just me, and I know people and I know things, and how can I help you? And it starts there, and that way, even if you're worried about, like, being vulnerable, right? Maybe you don't need to go there because you need to talk about you. You can talk about the other person. What are you doing? Like, what are you struggling with? How can, they be vulnerable with you, and how you can support them and just be there, listen, and offer sort of that space for them to share.
Yeah, you're sharing these stories of, like, how it feels awkward and how you need to do it just because you need. And we're gonna get back to some stories for people with non-linear stories and journeys. But that gives me the PTSD of my first networking events, not in Austin, but when I moved to the US, we had a brief time in New York City, and that was the worst time ever in terms of networking, because you can imagine this, like, young girl who doesn't yet understand where she is. She doesn't know what small talk is, because we don't have small talk back in Ukraine. If you ask the question, you're gonna be ready to hear all the bad things. Like, no one shares nice things because, like, you don't want people to jinx it. So you're gonna say everything that's, like, wrong. And, like, I show up to those events because, again, I was told that I have to. And this is New York. People value their time. And the first question they ask, so what do you do? And I'm unemployed. And I'm like, well, I'm looking for a job. And they're like, oh, okay, good luck. Turning their back to you. And I'm like, wow, that was harsh. Then, like, you try again and you receive the same response. They're like, oh, if you're not, I don't know, JP Morgan, like LinkedIn, whatever they are potentially interested in getting a job in, they're just like, oh, yeah, hope you're having a great time here. And I'm like, okay. And I was like, I know I'm smart. I know I have a lot of experiences to talk about, but no one is ready to listen to them. And I was literally crying there after those networking events. And I was just like, I will never meet friends here. I will never, like, it's so hard. And then I moved to Austin. And then part of the reason was also that. And then I remember there was the Austin Tech Week, or at that time Startup Week, here in Capital Factory. I showed up for one of the happy hours. And the first question people started asking me, like, hey, like, when did you move? What do you like to eat? What kind of food do you like? Hey, there's Thanksgiving soon. Probably you don't have place to go for Thanksgiving, so you're just you and your husband here. And I'm like, yeah, do you want to come over? Like, we're going to host a Friendsgiving. I'm like, what's going on here? This is like a completely different networking type. And it was so warm because people were interested in me as a person. Like, are you here with the family? Do you have dogs? Do you have kids? Do you have pets? I know for some people that might be too much too, so we have to be careful with our questions, but that change of having other people treating me as a person first, and then my title or absence of the title or the status of looking a job, and especially now in this market when so many people are looking for a job for 9 months, for a year, and with all of the layoffs, it's just so important to be human and see what also I can do. And I definitely can relate to the fact that at the beginning it was hard to, I cannot help these people, I cannot do anything for them, so that's why they are not interested in me. But we're gonna get back to how that can be reframed and what you can actually do for others and be helpful. But let's hear Cherie's story and personal story of how community was helpful for you.
So I actually come about it from a different perspective because before doing Fiesta, I was a stay-at-home mom, and I love being a stay-at-home mom. And I have a 10-year gap between my daughters, so I was a stay-at-home mom for a long time. And it was when my youngest was going off to college that it was like, okay, now what? And we started a business together as a family. We were doing Koya, and that was before COVID, and it was using geolocation. And part of the problem is people weren't going out during COVID. So it was during that time that I started meeting individuals moving to Austin, and they all had the same story. They were new to Austin. They could go anywhere, but they were choosing Austin to move to, and many of them were founders. So the first thing I did was I invited them into my home. I know I'm a stranger, but it was like...
You were one of those people.
I was one of those people. Yes. So, and I'm not an introvert. I'm an extrovert, if you can't tell. And I'm surprised you're an introvert.
I'm very introvert.
Oh my gosh. So anyway, so we'd invite people into the house, and then as I met people, I realized that my superpower was connecting. It's important to listen, and it's not about what, but why. Why are you here? A lot of times people want to say, what do you do? But I like to find out, what's your greatest need? How can I help? Who would you like to meet? And as I put those dots together, that's where I realized it was my superpower. I could connect somebody as I listened attentively to what they were saying. I not really good at remembering names right away. Some can attest to that. But as I get to know you and what you do, those are the things that kind of pop up. And so that's okay. And I'll ask you, I can't remember your name, but I know I met you. And I'll rattle off the things that I know about you. Like you mentioned something about bicycling. Right away, I need to introduce you to somebody that I met yesterday at my house who has a bicycling group. And I think you would enjoy meeting each other.
Pop-ups in Sherry's head.
Yeah, I mean, it's just really weird, and but then it's following up. I mean, it's one thing to say, "Hey, I'm going to introduce you to somebody," but it's really following up because that's where the magic happens. And I look back on my life, and there wasn't like community builders. I'm 6 decades in, and I actually used to be part of a community. I built a community here for families that homeschooled, and it was over 50 families that were part of it. And before that, I was part of a group of moms, and we met. I mean, that was like 2 decades, and I served on the board, and that was a big community that I was part of, and it helped me in my journey of being a mom because I felt ill-equipped. And so I think you go through these seasons of life, and you need to find your people. And it's not just one community that you show up for. I always say that Fiesta is kind of like the hub, but there's so many different communities that you should be part of. I mean, if you're from Ukraine, I mean, like being part of your group is so important. If you're CBG, or a woman in tech, I mean, being part of Awesome Women in Tech, and so navigating people to those other groups, it's about their journey. It's not, I think always remembering it's not about you, it's about the journey that other people are on, and being part of that. I mean, there's so much joy. One of the stories I heard yesterday on Tuesday was with the founders group that we do. We always ask them, end with, what is your ask? How can we help? And I think, when you share that in a small group, there's always somebody that can probably answer or help you with that. But then we come back into our larger group, about 50 women, share in there, and then I started a newsletter, and we then take that ask and share it in the newsletter. So September last year, we had a young woman come through. She was a brand new founder, 3 months in, and her ask was, I would like to meet investors or advisors to help me figure out what my pitch deck should look like. I don't know what I'm doing. And in the newsletter, we had a VC who read that, called her up, invited her to coffee, and magic happened. They became friends, and this VC encouraged her to be part of a accelerator in New York for 4 months. And she showed up at the group on Tuesday, and she shared that as she completed the accelerator, she closed $1.5 million. And that was all because of an ask. That was all because she showed up. And that's what I tell people. You don't know the serendipity that's going to happen when you show up. I mean, even here, I met somebody that came in for the first time. She's only been here 2 months. And, when I meet people, it's like, how can I help you navigate Austin? Because it's a new city, and I've been here for 35 years, and that's my expertise. And, I cringe to think that before starting Fiesta, I really questioned whether or not I was capable, because I didn't have a startup. I worked with my husband, and it wasn't successful. And so I gave myself all of these, reasons as to why I shouldn't do it. And the truth is 6 decades of life experiences and being a mom and showing up in that capacity, that's my gift. So
yeah, I can attest to that. The founder events are great, but the founders too. I really appreciate the format of how you divide people in the groups, and you have the facilitator, and again, for awkward introverts or just people who don't know where to start or don't want to share yet, they're not yet ready to share their journey or their position. There are always those prompts, and there are always asks. You can always meet people. Those are great. They're more intimate, again, because Fiesta is a big event. There are a lot of energy, startup energy. Everyone is super pumped. But then if you want things that are more tight conversations with 5 to I think 7 is the most.
We try and keep it at 7.
Yeah, 7 is the biggest size of the group, and you get to know people really well. Also have really nice connections from those events. So thank you very much, Sheree, for doing this.
And I was going to say, with the Fiesta event, one of the things that I do is I ask every event, how many of you are visiting? And typically we have 40%, sometimes 50, 60% that are visiting Fiesta for the first time. All of a sudden now there's a lot of people in the same boat that you're in, so you're not the only one there for the first time, which makes it easier to kind of go out and talk to somebody. And that is the intentionality behind that. And then also figuring out how many of you have lived in Austin for less than a year, and getting down to those that had just moved here, within a week or a day. I mean, I've had people who just landed and have shown up at Fiesta. So, those questions are purposely asked because it helps individuals to see that there are other people that are just getting started and they don't know anybody, so.
Yeah, and you shared a really great example and story from your community, and how that one introduction really changed the course of life for the business of this person. So what are and that's going to be a question for everyone, but since we have Sheree here now, what's the best way to do introductions? So we have here a lot of people who are newcomers to the US, or just switching the jobs, or going into the job market after a big break. How to ask for this introduction, how to do it right, not to look awkward, not to seem awkward. You mentioned follow through and follow up. What is that? Define it, explain it to a 4-year-old.
I'm probably going to be really non-traditional on this. As I'm talking to somebody and I'm putting the dots together, I'm going to say, oh my gosh, I need to introduce you to Sam. That just popped in my head because of what she said. And, I don't always reach out and say, hey, is it okay if I introduce? I figure even if I make an introduction and someone's not interested in, and I've had that happen with founders, because I really believe in synergy, and I believe that there's nothing new under the sun. So to me, I'm a very collaborative person, and if I see there's a way that people can collaborate, I'm going to make the introduction. So, but if someone comes to me and they're saying, my husband has 70 patents, so he's like a patent guru, and if you're wanting to understand things about patents, and you can come and say, hey, I see your husband is knowledgeable about patents. I'd love to talk to him. I just think asking. I think asks are important. If you don't ask, then people don't know what your needs are. And I would rather someone say no than, if you ask, then not asking, because there's been so many things that have happened as a result of me just making introductions. And it's very much intuition. There's no rhyme or reason for me. It's really because I think that these two people should meet. I'll explain to them. In fact, I did copy something, but I had introduced these two people and on LinkedIn, and she wrote me back and said, hey, if you're going to make an introduction, I'm going to go with it because I trust you. And so I think as a event organizers, sometimes that trust is already established when you make that introduction. And then I've also had a founder say, hey, I'm kind of working on my own thing. I really am not going to respond. That's okay. I mean, that you do you. So.
Yes, Sherry is such a giver. L3 is like, I'm going to do it for you anyway. You need it or not. Like, I need to do it for you. You need it. Trust me.
Yeah. Can I follow on with that a little bit? Yeah. So I think that, going to Cherie's events where she says, what is your ask, was instrumental for me in really clarifying why people should network and how people should network. And anytime you're going to a networking event, you should know what your ask is. And maybe your ask is, I want to give. Maybe your ask is, I want to receive. But you need to be really, the more clear you can be on what you're asking from other people at that networking event, the more they'll go, oh, wait a minute. I know somebody who has that need. And they'll think of who to connect you with, right? A lot of times, the connections you'll make at events are not, the person I meet is the person who's going to help me. The person I meet is going to know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who's going to help me, right? So the more clear you can be about what help you need and what ask you have, the easier it is for them to ask on your behalf, and then to start that spider web of people helping you. But when you start networking, when you start trying to find your community, I think it's important to know, what do you have to give as well as what do you have to receive. A big part of it is network before you need it, right? It's kind of like, you can find a boyfriend when you already have a boyfriend way more easily, right? Right? Or you can find a job when you already have a job, because it's when you have that confidence of what you're good at. So when people say, what do you do? What do you do is not your job title. What do you do is, what are you good at? I'm good at helping companies be more efficient. I'm good at starting shit. I'm good at rabble-rousing. I'm good at being funny, right? You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of things that what you do is more about who you are than any job title, right? And so have that elevator pitch. Know for yourself, what is it you want people to know that you can give? That's how you answer when they ask, what do you do? Right? It is not a job title. It is not who you work for. It is, I am great at connecting people because I have a huge network. Or I am great at making companies become more efficient because I have connections in the AI space, something like that, right? And so know your skills, know your talents, know your strengths. That's what you do. It's not a job title, right? So you can always have an answer whether or not you're employed, And then when people come to you and you meet them and they say, hey, what brings you here tonight? You can say, I'm great at making connections, or I'm great at doing this, I'm great at doing that. And I'm hoping to meet other people who do that. Or I'm helping to meet people who have that need. Or I'm in between jobs right now, but I'm great at this. Do you know anybody who has that need? But having that clarity of why you're there and why you're showing up is going to help you make the right connections at any networking event. And Cherie has been really instrumental to me in helping articulate that, right? Is you need to come and you need to be able to say, why am I here tonight? What am I doing here? It's like any other SMART goal, right? You don't know if you've met that goal unless you've made it attainable and measurable. So that's my soapbox for tonight.
I'm going to add a couple of things. I think it's fantastic when you can ask for it, but let's be honest, some of us start networking super awkward, and we're not going to ask because we're going to look stupid, right? Like, oh, I don't know. So there's a lot that's going on into networking emotionally, especially if you don't have a job. And so I would encourage everybody, in addition to all of these things that are true, to maybe take on a couple other techniques. Something that I've talked about was what can you do for someone? And here's an example. You're talking to someone, you don't have to be a leader of a group. You could just be someone who showed up. You're talking to someone and that you've talked to me before, and they're like, oh yeah, I'm really looking to move into product. And you're like, hey, come on, walk over with me. Hey, Zoo. you run Women in Product. Like, can I introduce you to who I just met? What is your name again? Right? Like, it really
Nicole, by
doesn't
the way.
matter. It's not really about like, this is someone I know and I'm vouching for them, and I'm introducing them because like I think you're gonna strike a great relationship here. Sometimes it's the fact that you have no stake in this, and that other person thinks that it could be a great connection, but it's scary, right? Like, they have a stake in that, like, I don't want to make a bad impression, and that's kind of in my field. I've done this recently at an event at Wise. Not that I would never go and work for a fintech company, but currently I have no aspirations to go there, to go specifically to Wise. We were doing an event there. There were a bunch of recruiters. They were kind of there to like, hey, we're here, we're hiring, and we're doing an event, and so we want to get to know you. I was talking to someone who was like, yeah, I'm like really, I'm here because I've worked in the financial industry, in the fintech, and I would really love to. And I'm like trying to figure out, I was like, I think they're hiring. You want me to introduce you to Heather over here, the recruiter? And it was like, right? Like, she just didn't want to go walk over to that recruiter because it was scary. It was high stakes. It was like, hello, I need a job, right? Like, it's awkward. So we had a conversation. I asked her some questions. We walked over, and I went to Heather, and I was like, Heather, I was just talking to Sarah, and we were discussing this particular topic, and I'm actually interested to see what you have to say about that, because you're in this field and you maybe see X, Y, and Z, right? And now they struck a conversation. It started, and I just like did one of those Homer. I disappeared, and I was like, you guys have that conversation, right? If you have no stake in that, it's so easy for you to help someone else. So just do it. If it doesn't work out, it's no worse than if you didn't do it, right? I mean, obviously get their permission, because maybe they're like, yeah, this is not the time, right? But I asked, like, hey, can I come introduce you? You can do the same thing online. Somebody was like, hey, do you know someone? I was like, I don't, but if you have a second connection, let me reach out. And I would reach out if there's a reason for me to connect, like, hey, you're VP of engineering at yada, yada, yada. Can we connect? Here's the reason why I think we should be connected. If we connect, then I can make additional introductions to this person. If they never connect with me, who cares? The other person, they're trying to apply for a job that's possibly reporting directly to this person. They don't want to go and be that person that's like, I found you on LinkedIn, I'm also applying, but right? But it's easier for me to do, and I have no stake in it. If they don't connect with me, who cares, right? Like, it's LinkedIn, it just gets lost, moving on. And so just really be open, like, what can I do for you? I don't know anyone necessarily. I don't have to know you and your skills in order to walk you over to someone and make it a little more comfortable for you to have a conversation. It doesn't take anything for you. Now, that might actually make it much easier for you to be at a meetup, because now it's not about you. You're like, what can I do? Oh yeah, I just talked to so-and-so. And you're just connecting people. And by the way, you know what's happening? You're making great connections for yourself as well. And you don't have to get immediately vulnerable. You don't have to show up with a resume and say, by the way, I'm also looking. But you're showing your skills, right? You're showing your skill to be able to connect to another human, to be able to understand and be interested and be curious. And you can strike additional conversations. So keep in mind, yes, it's awesome if you can clearly articulate your ask. But if you cannot, just have conversations. And then, always offer the help, because I learned to do these things by other people doing that for me. And I was like, oh, wow, that's a really interesting way of doing it. And that was really low stakes for you. Why don't I do that for other people? And so it's just really modeling that behavior for others.
Yeah. And that's where that question comes in. Like, who would you like to meet at this event? You're here this evening. So that's one of the questions that I ask people is like, who can I introduce you to? Because then I have insight into what would be beneficial to them.
Yeah, it sounds like a great side effect, like you're helping others, but then as a result, you also have great connections. It's also part of the reasons why we do Wtech, right? Like, we want to empower other people. We select the topics that are interesting for us. We collect feedback, and then but in the same time, we get to meet great people here based in Austin. Some of our speakers are virtual, and at the same time share this knowledge and share this network with all of our members and our guests. So yeah, just keep introducing people to other people, and your network's gonna grow.
Can I jump in one more thing? I get a lot of asks of like, oh, I want to get involved. How can I help? And then when I share a few things, usually nothing happens because it's a lot of work. And it's, by the way, it's perfectly fine, right? It's perfectly fine to want to be involved and then go, oh, I don't have that much capacity. I am going to share, though, if you are looking for ways to inject yourself, like what you just said, right? Like you're leading the group, it's making great connections with all the speakers that you're meeting, with all the companies that you're connecting with to host in spaces. Maybe that's a low stake for you to say, hey, I'm really trying to get into fintech. What if I helped one of the groups, any of these or any others, like maybe there's a space they can host an event. I'll reach out to the HR and coordinate the space. It's not about you, but you made a connection directly to head of HR or directly to someone at that office. You coordinated event, you showed up, you were one of the connectors there, and you were like, that's all I'm doing. I'm just helping with this one event for this particular group. By the way, no volunteer group is going to tell you, unless you sign on for life, you cannot help, right? Anybody here, I guarantee you, will allow you to help with events. It's a lot of work. So just offer help and help yourself in the process. Nobody's going to look down on you because you also had benefit from that volunteering work. Find volunteering work that benefits you at the same time.
Yeah, and I was going to say, there's a reason why LinkedIn says if you're second connected, right? If you're like, I'm second connected to someone, ask your first connect to make an intro for you, right? Like use that information to be like, wait, how are we connected? And go, oh, we're both connected to this other person. Ask your first connect to make an intro. That's going to go a lot further than you cold contacting somebody who's like, how or why do I know you? And it's exactly like what you were saying. Like what she's saying, doing at an event is like introduce someone so then they can have a conversation. You could do that on LinkedIn. You can do that over email. You can do, that kind of thing, because then it's in their interest to maintain their connection with their first connect by helping their second connect. You know what I mean? And everybody wins, even if it doesn't end up in a new job or a new opportunity or a new whatever. But the reason we see who's connected to who is so that we can connect even more people directly.
Yeah, and going back to volunteering is, I think that's how Ola, one of the partners, she is back with her 6 weeks old baby, but like that's how Ola met Nicole. They were both volunteering for another group of sustainability professionals. Lisa spoke at our event last time 2 months ago. That's how they met each other. I remember there's also a great group here in Austin called Girls Empowerment Network. They are promoting education for high school and middle school girls, and they had an event, I think, where it was not even like a full-time volunteering position. You can just join them and share your story, your career story, your professional journey story with high school students from different, I think those were like high school from San Marcos. Then they had like a field trip, school trip to Austin, and I just went there because I wanted to share. I wanted to learn what's on girls' minds, like what are they thinking, what are their career plans, what are their life plans. And I didn't expect to meet, like I didn't go there for networking. I went there for like my mission, like my ego, right? For in some reason. And I met wonderful ladies from huge companies that I am potentially interested in working for. But those are other people with whom our values align. We are there not for networking. We are there for this help. And again, a great side effect of doing what you're passionate about and helping others is just meeting people on the same page that are ready to open doors for you after. So.
Yeah, and I did that to realize that my teenage children are not the only teenagers who never want to talk to me. No teenagers seem to want to talk to adults.
So you just seek other people, other kids that are forced to be there and have to talk to.
I ended up feeling better about myself, even though I was trying to help teenage girls.
What about, let's talk about awkward stuff. Like you mentioned online introductions or requests. What about like when actually people that you don't know reach out to you for intro, or it's like not a nicely set message, or it's basically, you know, it's a very transactional ask. What about it? What do you like about it or don't? Or what recommendations or suggestions you may have to people? Yeah, for some people, like English is their second language, like foreign language can be a blunt instrument when you speak. So any recommendations of how to be professional? What is needed? Sometimes, you know, it's just a follow-up, right? Like reaching back to Cherie, how this girl that you mentioned, she just came back a year after and mentioned all of this story. Like how to be professional with introductions and with disconnections.
The first thing that comes to mind is be grateful. The fact that she showed up on Tuesday to share that story, that meant the world to me. Sometimes, I mean, we do things not expecting anything in return, but to be able to hear the impact that we're making, really, that's the wind in my sails. That's what keeps me going forward and continuing to do what I do. And then I think, so far as being awkward, I mean, like, I'm trying to think.
I could say, I mean, to me, like, we get a lot of cold call. Like, once you get into, like, our kind of positions, you get a lot of the, like, cold call, LinkedIn requests, email requests, all sorts of whatever. And I can easily tell the people who found me because it's me versus I'm emailing everybody or I'm LinkedIning everybody. So the more you can, like, craft your message of, you and I have this commonality in this, and therefore I think you're a good connection, and here's what I really think I could use your help with, right? But if you're like, here's my form letter that I'm going to send to 1,000 people, I'm going to delete it, right? I get enough of that. But when people are like, here's why I think you're a good connection for me, and people really do this, they make me feel special. And then I want to help them, right? And so, and it is more professional that way. I can see that they're doing their homework. It's just like staff. I want them to do their homework before they ask me how to do something. This is like people, you know, do your homework. Why am I the right connection? That shows me that you've done some due diligence. And then I'm more willing to help you.
I prefer honesty over, like, I chat GPT that I'm a product manager, you're a product manager, can we connect? Like, I'm a human, you're a human, and we're on LinkedIn, cool. So, you know, if somebody comes to me and says, like, hey, I see that you're an athlete, you're a product manager, have similar background, I'm really trying to figure out how to get into health tech, like, tell me something that doesn't have to be super professional per se. Like, give me a personal reason. You just tell me kind of this boilerplate, like, I think I could learn something from you because you're the most wonderful product manager in this world. I'm like, sure I am. Right? Like, it's just, they're just blowing, you know, smoke up your butt, and it's not really helping. Like, it's very clear what they're trying to do. They're just trying to be like, oh yeah. So just tell me, like, no, seriously, like, I'd rather them tell me, hey, you lead women in product. I bet you know a whole bunch of people. What I'm looking for is connections for X, Y, and Z. What I'm trying to do is this. Give me a way out, right? Like, hey, it's totally cool if you're too busy. You know, I could make it super easy, you know, if da-da-da. But if you could actually meet for coffee, that would be even better. Give me a couple options, you know, low investment, higher investment. Tell me a good story. Tell me why you need that help and why I am in a unique position to help you. And by unique, I don't mean like go as far as like, you know, just be like, hey, I see that you're embedded in the community. You have lots of connections and I'm having trouble with X, Y, and Z. Is there anyone by any chance you could connect me to? If you offer something in return, even better. Right? Like, hey, I could do these things, or like, let me know if there's anything I can help with, even just open-ended. I'll look at your profile and I'll be like, actually, you can. Maybe you could talk to this other person, not even for me, but like, hey, you have this background, and I just talked to someone and they could use your expertise. You have been laid off a year ago, but you seem like you have 10 years of experience in X, right? So it's about making those connections. So just be honest. Don't do the boilerplate. I'm a human, you're a human, let's connect. That sucks.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of how I formed my message when I asked you to be a speaker. I'm like, okay, did I add more human part to it? But yeah, I know there was a story, because there's also a really nice nonprofit in Austin for the product folks here, not that many, but called Product Camp. It's also like a nonprofit, and you can actually have present there. You prepare your topic, and then people vote for it, and then it's a great speaking opportunity and like training opportunity for public speaking. I did that 2 years ago. That was a huge, like, challenging myself doing that, talking to, I think there were like 50 people at that time, and it's completely free for attendees. There are sponsors who are supporting the event, so also another organization to throw Product Camp. And I think that's also something that I mentioned to you, because they reached out to us saying like, hey, maybe like women from Wtech want to give a session, and I said like, well, we are out of town, but there's Susanna who leads women in product, like reach out to her. I'm pretty sure there's going to be someone. So yeah, just finding those dots, I think is really important, and that's why I think it's you should share more, as Nicole said. It's not just your title. Share more. Share something that can be this touch point, right? That connects you with those people, that makes you memorable too. Like, hey, I remember the first time I met Cherie, like the couple of days or like couple of other events, she reached out to me like, hey, there's another girl from Serbia. I'm like, I'm from Ukraine. But like, I'm not worried. As Cherie said, she might not remember the name, but she remembered what I was interested in. And she's like, hey, I think you need to meet this person. So sometimes, yeah, they may not remember your name, not necessarily the country you're from or necessarily exactly your business, but some part or things of your story gonna stick, and the more you're gonna tell or be able to show, the more opportunities and possibilities to get the help you need. Yeah, and I think as like bringing up Ukraine, Serbia, immigrants and mothers coming back from maternity leave, people with non-linear career journeys who are going back. Do you have any stories from your community or your personal stories? People who just didn't know what to do and they reached out to your community, or just stories from members from your community that are newcomers, refugees, moms returning back, that one introduction, similar story that you, Cherie, shared, changed their lives or just help them go through one day.
I don't have a very specific story, like this person showed up and had this kind of background and, now they're right here. But it is really important to me that when somebody shows up and, I'm ESL. I'm from Slovakia originally, but I've been in the States for 20 years. And I remember the time when I was mixing up appreciate and appropriate. Sounded like the same word to me, right? And it can get awkward, and you feel lesser than. Sometimes you don't quite understand the lingo, or maybe you just not so deep into something very specific about what you're trying to do, but you're really interested in it. It's just awkward. And so being really welcoming in the community to people who are, hey, I want to be a product manager, but I don't know what it means yet, right? Like, that's very legitimate. Like, I think there's something cool about it. And just again, like, what do you like about it? Because maybe you have a misconception, right? And so just bringing them into the conversation rather than making them feel weird that they don't know what product management is or what kind of product manager they want to be, because they probably didn't even know there are different kinds of product managers, right? So yeah, being welcoming both as a leader, but also I think as a community, like keeping that in mind, that could be a great connection for you to someone, not just from like a personal, like, ooh, I need to be nice because you never know, but just, how do you want to feel? How welcome do you want to be when you're in that situation? So it's modeling that behavior and just understanding that everybody's coming from somewhere, and we don't have these linear paths. I didn't come from a product management college to be a product manager. There's more and more of that now happening, and there's a little bit of like people look down on like, oh, that's like a support person, product manager wannabe. I was like, I was a support person. I was kind of like like in sales and support and project manager, program manager, and I did like interaction design, but I called myself project manager because I didn't even know there was a title of product, right? Like we come through different paths, and it doesn't really matter. What matters is like, where are we aiming? What do we want to learn? Are we curious? And how we bring people in to learn about those things if we have that knowledge.
Oh, sorry. I was going to continue with that story. Specific stories like from Austin Women in Tech, we have several people who found their jobs through people they met at our events, or people who they met, or people who had a mentor who encouraged them to go into a field that they weren't sure they were going to go into. You know, we have a mentorship program where we pair people and help them, you know, find what path they want to be on, that kind of thing. But a lot of it goes back in my mind about network before you need it, or even when you do need it. Be really interested in what other people need and what other people want and what other people do. And having that kind of quiet confidence of, it's not always about what I need to say about me. It's about me listening to what you have to offer. And then I can chime in with like, oh, you're great at that? I actually could use some help with that. Right? But a lot of times it's kind of like, you know, when you go and you're meeting someone and all they do is like ask you questions, you know, and you're like, maybe I want to ask them questions. Right? So be more of the interviewer. Even if you're going there because you need a job, or because you're in between, or because you want a career shift, or whatever you're there, the more you can very intentionally listen and genuinely care about what the other people have to give, you might find that they have something that you need, and that's where you'll end up connecting.
Yeah, what comes to mind is people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Right. And so just to add to what you were saying, I think for Fiesta, I mean, because we're kind of all-inclusive, although my focus is on founders, but everybody is welcomed at Fiesta. I know several people have found jobs, and if someone says they're looking for a job, I say, go share it on the Slack channel. I am working with a gal right now who I met at an event, and she's looking for a job, and so she's like top of mind. And if I'm out and about, you know, I'll mention her name and make a connection that way. I also think about, you know, an international. I mean, we've had so many internationals that have come through Fiesta, and they reach back out and like, oh my gosh, how can I do something like this where I'm at? And it's always amazing to me that they have gotten so much value. But I think of one guy in particular, Taha, and he came to Austin, and he's like, I've never experienced. I do an event company in Pakistan, and I've just never experienced this kind of energy. And he actually ended up buying a house here in Austin, and we became friends. And then he's like, you have to come to my country, you know. So a lot of times when you meet people from other countries, they're like, you have to come to my country. I'm like, yeah. And but actually, last year, we ended up going to Pakistan. We were invited to be part of a program that he was facilitating, and you know, we just had to pay for our flights to get over there. But it was such an amazing experience to be able to go to another country, which I would have never imagined going to Pakistan. But it was a beautiful country, and the people were amazing. And then we got to go to Toronto also. So, you know, a lot of times doors open up that, I mean, I could not have ever imagined, you know, as a result of doing this. And, you know, again, it's just always being willing to help.
Yeah, thank you. Those are wonderful stories. I will just like briefly share mine. I posted it on LinkedIn while announcing the event. How I got involved with Wtech even back in Ukraine. So I was working in marketing already, but in CPG sphere, and all of my friends were in CPG or pharma. And then I realized that like, okay, I am done with the physical products. Like I want to be in IT or like have like digital products where I can track everything. And I'm like, where do I start? And then I was just like, oh, I heard there is this like group of women in tech that's like networking wasn't a thing in Ukraine yet, like, and also very much like a boys club thing. So it's just like, okay, I'll add myself into like the Telegram channel, like to the group chat, and I will just like observe what they're talking about, like be like imposter in a way. But and I seen the requests and like topics that women were discussing. I'm like, oh, those are smart women. Like I want to be close to them. I like what they're talking about. And then the next step was like, okay, I am technically not in tech, but I want to be, and I should just like sign up for this like breakfast. They in Ukraine the format is brunches is really popular. I'm just like, I'm gonna go there, and again, I'm just gonna be a listener. I'm just gonna sit there. I will tell what I'm doing, but like I just want to hear those women are so cool. So that's what I've did in December 2021. And I remember meeting one lady who came back from Dallas, and I'm like, wow, you lived in Dallas. Like, tell me more. How did you go? Like, what did you do there? Like, how's life in the U.S.? And that was like the step 2. And then when the war started and I moved to the U.S., I was just like, I was already in tech in that time, but I was still trying to identify what role I should look for. Is it like integrated marketing, product marketing? And someone told me smart coaches, job seeking coaches told me like, hey, like you need to do informational interviews. So Wtech was the first place. I'm like, I don't know anyone yet in the US, but like there's this community of people. I'm like, hey, is there anyone with a title who's like product marketing? That was also like a new thing. There was this girl was like, yeah, we can talk. So like she told me what is her role. I could identify, is it like, do I fit? What's the gaps? What can I do? And then like a year after, she reached out to me saying like, hey, like I know your relative is living in that place, like in another country, like we're thinking of relocating. Can you connect us? So that was all of that started with just like curiosity of like, I need to start somewhere. I don't know where, but it seems like there is this community where people would be talking a lot about this. And here we are in Austin. We are partners and local representatives for Wtech, and now trying to pay it forward. But I believe that like starting to get yourself into conversations and around the people is really important, because as soon as possible, because it's either you will understand that yes, those are my people, or no, like I felt in New York, I'm like, oh no, I need to get myself out of here. Like I am very extroverted, but it's not for me. So community provides us with this opportunity, and this is great. I think I have one more question, but I will keep it for the end, and we can open the audience. We can open questions for the audience. Please raise your hand, and Lucy was, we'll pass the mic.
Who have the questions?
Please.
I'm going to paint you all a picture. So imagine that a woman moves to the city, doesn't have much of a network, and decides to start a meetup group for an underserved need in the community. The day rolls around, people seem interested, almost no one shows up. And then she decides, okay, I'm going to start a Slack group to follow up. Almost no one engages. This may be semi-autobiographical, but what advice would you have for her to A, not lose steam and get discouraged, and B, go on to have a second, third, or 25th successful event after that?
Yeah, I'll answer that. I think it's being consistent. You know, when I started Fiesta, I had no idea how many people were going to show up. And doing something that you enjoy, that if even one person showed up, it's still meaningful. And then as you start enjoying it and they invite somebody, then you have 3 and you're consistent, and then more people show up, because people are going to gravitate to their tribes. And so depending on what that event is, you're going to end up getting the numbers. I mean, Fiesta started off, the first event we did was in June. 4 years ago, we had 37 people because of an invite. Then we came to Capital Factory, and that's when we actually kind of started Fiesta, and it almost doubled. I mean, because people invite people. So, and then the Slack group is great, I mean, for communication. But like I said, find something you enjoy doing, because it didn't matter if only one person showed up. I was doing it because I wanted to help people who were moving to Austin.
I was going to say a very similar thing. I have an allergic reaction to leaders who are like, my group has 7,000 people. And it's like, I have never seen 7,000 people show up. And the fact that they signed up for your Slack group and never engaged doesn't matter. Like, how engaged are they with each other? Not just with you. Is this about bragging rights, right? Like, I have the biggest group in Austin and everybody loves me and my group because my group's the best. Like, it makes my skin crawl, right? I always tell everybody, like, go check out every single group. It doesn't matter. And so I'm not going to tell you what to do, but search in yourself, like, why are you doing it? One thing is enjoying it, but like, what is your purpose? And as long as you are reaching that purpose with at least one person, and that is worth it to you, do it, right? And again, like, people gravitate to feeling that you're not there because you're trying to build a group so that you can market that you have the biggest group in Austin. If you're trying to monetize a group, I think it's still valid. Maybe you're trying to build a business around sort of like a community business, and that's fine. But you need to understand why you're doing it and then go after it based on that.
Yeah, I would second and third everything you're saying. So Austin Women in Technology has been around for over 20 years. It's not something that happens overnight, right? And it's kind of like how I consider a lot of my flaky friends. Like, I'm going to go do whatever I want to do because I want to do it. And if people show up, great. I'm still having a great time whether or not they show up, right? But also, partnering with each other is a huge thing. So find the organizations who have maybe a subset of our population would be somebody who would go to your organization. See, maybe we can market for you, or maybe you can announce yours at our event, or, there's ways you can market through other organizations that already have a bigger following, and that can help you get some traction. But whether you're the one leading it or trying to find your community, or you're not sure, a lot of things, keep showing up. Just keep showing up. That consistency is so important, because honestly, like, the first time you go to an event, whether it's AWT or Fiesta or Women in Product or whatever, you might not find your people the first time. You may have a great time the second time. You may have a mediocre time the third time, and it's one of those where, you try not to make a trend out of one data point. Make sure that you can actually have a statistical analysis with enough data to know is this the right community for me, or is this not for me? Does that help at all? Yeah. Okay.
So questions? Oh, we will ask questions. Come on. I can ask. Please.
So just circling back to what you said, I moved to Austin just last September. I went to Cherie's event. That's when I was really surprised. Emily was actually in my group, and it was asking me what you need, and it was just something that I had never seen before, so it was really eye-opening. But on the consistency part, I kind of just started to go events, and then it's really nice because when I walked into this room today, it was like, oh, I know her, and I know her, and it's just nice, like, we're friends now. It's not just like, I'm a photographer and I take photos, although I am. It's nice to get it. But I just think that I started to think more about it as like going to support my friends and to learn, and then good things happen unexpectedly, because I just believe that when you put good out there, great comes back to you. And I really learned that firsthand from Cherie, of course, working with her. But like Nicole, like I saw her first at an event, and at the first event, it's like, who's that girl in the blue blazer? Well, but then I keep showing up and I reach out to her, and then she has so many things on her plate. Like, she wouldn't know how to help me if I weren't to reach out to her. So it's things like that, coming from my personal experience. So yeah.
I want to say something about Stella. So Stella showed up at this event. I think she was 2 weeks into Austin, and she searched for an event to go to and showed up. And going back to what Nicole was talking about, Fiesta partnered with Austin Women in Tech to do a collaborative event. I'm very big on coming together because I believe in cross-pollination. Again, if I could have my way, it would be getting a group of women organizers all to stand on stage and share, this is who we are, this is what we do, these are the women we serve. I think for a lot of people, we don't know what we don't know. And so I want to make it known. So in fact, in the newsletter that goes out tomorrow for the Herald, I have a list of various women organizations because I got curious. I mean, I love the fact that you serve as a facilitator at our event, as does Emily, and we have probably 4 or 5 different women organizations that have come, what she said, Awesome Women, Business Women, and so I was curious to see how many actually are here, and I think I have about 20, and I know I'm missing some, but to make it easy for people to find what they're looking for. But going back to Stella, she showed up at the event with her camera and said, is it okay if I take pictures? She was using her gift of photography, and she offered to take photos of the event, which took something off of my plate because I run around taking photos, setting up. I have only been around 4 years, so I don't have a board and a large team of people helping. Maybe if I'm around for 20 years, I will get there. I don't know if I'll make it that, but my goal is to make it through 5 years. But that's what it looks like, showing up and using your gifts and offering to help. It makes such a big difference. And guess what? She is like my adopted daughter. She has left a great impression, and I'm there to help and support her. And that's what happens when you offer your time and assistance, when you show up and ask, how can you help? So, and she's everywhere these days, so.
Yeah, and honestly, if you're socially awkward, like myself sometimes, believe it or not, no, I really am. Volunteering is a great way to have something to do. So you're not just like standing there like a wallflower, like, good Lord, I hope somebody talks to me. But you have a mission, you have a reason, you have a purpose. You know what I mean? You're there with something to do. And that really helped me get more involved in AWT and feel more comfortable going to events. And that led into being part of the board and then eventually becoming president. Like Shree's saying, like you're saying, like Zoo is saying, it is hard to put on events. If you go to an event and you're like, damn, this event is sweet, this is so amazing, then there's probably 5 to 10 people like hustling in the background to make it happen. Like, we always need help. We always need volunteers. It's true for my organization, probably every organization. There's always wizards behind the curtain. So be one of the wizards, and you might find more purpose in going to events.
I'm here. I'm wrong.
Yeah, I could just say it too. Yeah.
It's just with the stream.
Oh, the microphone. Yeah, I'm just curious, like, you have all just had an amazing impact in the communities that you're leading, but I'm curious, like, now that you've been in a community leader position now, are there community leaders, like, whether they're in other cities or even like online, they could be nonprofits or private community leaders that you find particularly like inspiring or kind of have aspirations to do things that they've done? Like, who are they and what are they doing?
That's a great question. That's a hard question to answer. Honestly, so there are several, just in Austin alone, there are several community organizations that we partner with. I could give you like specific names of people that I'm inspired by in different regards. But yes, just in the spirit of continual improvement, personal continual improvement, I think everyone should always be looking for people to be inspired by, right? No matter how much you are a leader in any sphere of your life, there are going to be people that you can learn from. So, for me personally, I learn from Cherie almost all the time in what she does at her events. Like, she does better charcuterie boards than we do.
And I actually do them.
And she actually like does them
I
herself.
don't buy them, so because I'm cheap.
No, but honestly, and I went to like a national nonprofit conference that like I didn't even know existed, and then found somebody else. Like I went to Philadelphia only to meet another nonprofit organizer in Austin. Like you constantly are finding people you can learn from, but just never feeling like you know enough. I never feel like I know enough. I'm always open to learning from other people. And I think that's what's going to continue to make AWT and other organizations great.
I want to call out Dan Corbin and the local community. I love his leadership, specifically community leadership. He's one of those people, and pretty much it's rare to find someone who's a little snooty, I would say, in the community. We're just very connected, very open, very collaborative, right? Inviting each other like, hey, let's collab on this thing, and you guys want to participate in this. But I've seen a little bit of like, is this a good fit? Because they're doing this other thing. And Dan is always like, this is good for the community. Let's go. Like, he's just an amazing leader. He's always connecting people. Like, I don't even know how he does it with everything he does, because it is a volunteer position for him. Sometimes when I look out there on the LinkedIns, it feels like, is this your job? Because that's a lot, right? Like, it's unreachable for someone who's a volunteer running something locally. I don't have that kind of support in marketing, budgets, and that just looks too professional. It looks like there's too many people, too much money, and I'm like, that's not what we have. This is not what we're aspiring to be. We're not a company. We are a local community that's helping people. This is, and so looking at someone more locally who's really a leader in the community, who people look up to, people know the name. And when you reach out to Dan, he's going to set up a meeting with you. He's going to introduce you to people, like guaranteed.
The person that comes to mind after you said that is Mark Nathan. Mark Nathan runs a CBG group, and before I started Fiesta, I actually invited Mark into my house and sat down and said, okay, I know you're the OG person of communities. Everybody knows Mark Nathan. And but I kind of say, like, I'm the female version of Mark Nathan is kind of what I've aspired to be. And but what makes him so great is that he's always opening his network, and he's always elevating people. And that's kind of what I do. He leads with heart. I lead with heart. And today we were with Mark, and I mean, John and I are kind of quiet. I don't overly promote myself. I just, it's not something I'm comfortable with. I think it's a generational thing. But Mark was promoting me and like going off on like, okay, you need to work with these people. This is why. And I mean, you need to have people like that you're not intimidated by. You're elevating one another. I mean, I love what you and Emily do. I mean, I've kind of looked up to Emily also, because she's very involved and plugged into the community. So
Emily is my president-elect for Austin Women in
Yes.
Technology, FY.
And also a facilitator.
And she's a facilitator, and she's a CTO, and she does a million things. So her name is Emily Gupton, if anyone wants to know who's like inspired me. And honestly, she is someone who has become one of my dear, dear friends, and I'm thankful for AWT just for my friendship with Emily. Like, it's amazing.
Oh, yeah, I see.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Shahina Sultanova. I'm actually from Omaha, Nebraska. So I'm here for a summer internship. My mentor invited me. So very happy to be here. Thank you so much for sharing all of your insights. One question that I have as a young person still navigating her career, what would you say are the top 3 skills or characteristics of a good leader? I know you guys have many years of leadership experience. So yeah, I think that would help a ton in terms of actually implementing it at a younger age. So yeah.
So that's the kind of question we need to prepare for.
Sorry.
I would say be vulnerable, be authentic,
Have a clear vision.
yeah, and then, I mean, for me, it's leading with heart. Know what your values are. So I'm a giver, not a taker. I think people can kind of smell that out. So
Yeah, having core values, like, and being able to articulate what your core values are, is really, really, really important. And being able to share those and communicate those, right? And so, like, every time I speak, I will talk about, networking before you need it, right? Coming to events with something to give more than just something to receive, right? Like, that's one of my core values. Being a servant leader, being there to help others is a core value. But honestly, in terms of being a leader, there is obviously articulating your core values, but also articulating your expectations from other. Like, I have a board of about 12 members, and one of the important things is making sure it's very, very clear what I expect them to do and what I expect them to deliver on, and making sure people know how to communicate with one another, and just setting very, very clear expectations of success, right? And so people knowing not only like the strategies and the specific things that they need to implement, but why they're doing it. And that's where the tactics and the values come together.
I'm just going to contribute super shortly. I think all of these skills are super valuable. Something that I have experienced at one company is where they called all managers and leaders coaches. And it was different, but it was interesting because I thought, like, as a leader, you really are a coach. But when you think of a coach, I think you also need to start thinking, like, am I the type of coach that needs to be a know-it-all so that I can teach you all the things? Or do I need to be the type of coach that's supporting you in your growth, right? I don't have to know it, but I'll either go learn it if you need me to, or I'll be there to support you in learning it. And so it comes with all of the skills you talked about, the servant leadership, right, showing up authentically. But if I had to summarize it, and also being an athlete, like for me, it's sort of like the coach persona when you're like a true coach, not just like the yeller, like, go do it, you need to do it because you need to be tough, right? But like, what does a good coach really look like when they push you when you need it, but also they're there for you to support you when you just need, you need to vent, you need to be heard, and you need an advice, or you need to be told, like, you need to figure this out, right, on your own.
Yeah, and you're doing a good job when you can go on vacation. No, I mean, I'm being totally serious. Like, if I can walk away for 2 weeks and know that my team is still going to deliver to the type of vision that I would create, then I know I'm doing a good job. If they need me to tell them specifically what their tasks are on a daily basis, I'm not doing a good job as a leader, right? They need to be able to be taught how to make the decisions, for themselves, right? If I'm not teaching them how to make the right decisions and I'm just making yes men, then I'm not doing a good job.
The other thing I was going to add, if I could go back in time and do things differently, I would invest in myself. I think investing in a coach, someone that you can talk to that can guide you on this journey, is invaluable. I've seen people who have done that and where it gets them, because I think as women we often limit ourselves. I mean, we have imposter syndrome. We feel like we have to show up and be perfect and things like that. And just being comfortable in your skin is so important, to know who you are and what makes you come alive.
I think we've got one more question. Yeah, one more. She's been waiting for a while.
Thank you.
She has a mic in her hand.
First of all,
No pressure.
but first of all, thank you so much for finding a time to share all of your experience. It was very insightful. My question may sound a bit dumb, but hey, there is no dumb questions. Yeah. So, how to search for that? Where to search for all of this event? Sometimes I would be searching something, and the thing is, like, I may find like myself in the corner, is this even legit? Like, is this event legit? So maybe there are specific portals, platforms where you're, promoting yourself, or it's just a LinkedIn, Google, Facebook, or something like that.
I'll jump in. There is no magic bullet. Everybody, especially these like grassroots or local communities, they're going to be like doing what they can. There are products out there that make you pay, and people don't have money to pay for all of the professional tooling for. So there's a free product that you can list on Meetup with, all the ads. Awesome. When Meetup's like, oh yeah, we're going to start charging if you have more than whatever. It's like, okay, we're going to go to Eventbrite, and then we're going to go to Luma. We're going to go LinkedIn groups. Like, everybody does what they need to do. One, to make it sustainable for them, and two, to make it sustainable financially, right? Like, depending on what the charges are for the different products. There are efforts out there, one of which I've started is pulling together those events. So there is a ATX product community calendar that you can just subscribe to on Gmail, on your Google Calendar. All I do is when I come across product events, I put them in there with a link to wherever you need to go. It's, RSVP on LinkedIn, RSVP on Eventbrite, because that pulls it together a little bit. It is obviously hard to maintain manually, so I'm trying to recruit leaders who can add their own personal events. So there are efforts like that around. I've seen people on LinkedIn who do that in certain communities. They just kind of like collect all of the events and make a post every week. I've seen that in Austin. This event was also posted. So those are people you might be able to follow, and they do that work for you. So those are kind of like a few ways. In terms of legit, kind of what you mean, like, obviously you don't want to be in danger, right? When you're showing up, but show up to public spaces. Going to Capital Factory, worst can happen is the event sucks, right? Or it's not for you. If you're showing up at some back alley, 2 a.m. tech event, like, maybe be skeptical. But I think in most events that are in a public space at a normal hour with other humans, the worst thing that's going to happen is that it's
night
not
rides
a good one.
with cyclists. Is it is it the one that you were doing or not? The one when they cycle at night in the midnight in Austin?
I don't lead that ride, but
Okay.
there are those
Crazy.
rides, and they're wild.
Yeah, I was going to say, when I first started networking, there was this one event that showed up, and we went to it, and nobody was there. And I'm like, how can they put this out here it was on Meetup at the time, because Meetup, when I started, is what the platform we use, and it was the best advertising. Because of that problem, one of the things that Fiesta has done is that we have asked event organizers to add their stuff to our site, and so we can promote them, because again, being the hub of Austin, we want to elevate the different spokes, and so we even sometimes bring in the different event organizers to share, this is who we are, and this is what we do. And so yes, you can go out to Fiesta. We have a calendar that lists a lot of founder events. It's really hard to put like product and marketing events and stuff like that on it, so I try and stay more founder focused. But the problem is that there are so many different platforms now, and everybody's trying to do it, even us. So we started something called Eventbrite, and we're trying to make it so that when you're at a networking event, you have a name tag that's printed out with a QR code, and so you connect with individuals in the moment, and then it's a follow-up that comes out. But what's really cool as an event organizer at the end of the event is that they can see who the super connectors were at that event, if it's a networking event, and then we want to follow up and make suggestions of people who you should meet and stuff like that. But
Yeah, Austin Women in Technology. We also have a community calendar, so we don't just post our events, but also events of other technology organizations, including Fiesta for our founders, and Austin Tech Council, Austin Forum for Technology and Society, Out in Tech. We'll start doing Wtech too.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, to that end, also, anytime you go somewhere, if you go somewhere and it's fun, ask the people you meet, like, where else are you going? And do that word of mouth. Put a post on LinkedIn, like, hey, everyone, I'd like to go to some events this week. What are y'all doing? You'd be surprised what people will come back and share.
So the bad news is there is no single place where you can find the events. The great news is there's a lot of people that are putting out calendars and events, and there's just too many to keep up with. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot to go to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but know what your special interest is, right? And know where you want to go. And people should have their websites optimized, and you should be able to find them when you Google. If you can't find them when you Google it, you probably shouldn't go. Yeah.
or offer your volunteer help to put up this website together for the organization. Thank you very much for the questions. We will wrap it up with the last question from me, and then we'll proceed to our networking. But what's next? What's next for you as leaders and next for your communities? What we can expect in the following year, days, and just give us some previews of what we can hear from you soon. Cherie?
Okay, so what's next? Well, we're celebrating 4 years in July. So, yes, I'm excited about that. But we just launched our Fiesta Connect in March. Fiesta Connect, I think you go to grow.fiesta.community. We couldn't figure out, like, we can't be a capital factory, have this beautiful space, but what we wanted to do was to be able to help internationals and folks that are what I call floating through the ecosystem to be able to stay connected. We now, too, are doing a live stream of our event, and it's on Fiesta Connect, and that way we can have that touch point. Yeah, watch. I think this next year is going to be really exciting. Doors are opening up. It takes, again, time and consistency of doing things to prove that you're not just some flake out in the community. So because of this acknowledgement that I got at by the Texas Venture Group, I've had several people reach out that are now wanting to collaborate with me. It used to be the opposite. I'm like, hey, can we collaborate? I'd love to kind of cross-pollinate. And so, yeah, I'm open to seeing where things go.
Sue?
All right, I'll go. So with Women in Product, we're going to keep doing what we've been doing. And what's been successful for us is listening to the community, coming up with interesting events, connecting people, whether those events are small or large, whether we are collaborating with other groups or not. It's really about the community and making sure that people are getting something valuable out of it, whether that's knowledge, whether that is connections. And so not a whole lot of change. We're just going to keep doing what we've been really good at and make sure it's sustainable. And we're here for all the women that want to learn about product.
Just a quick question before we move on. Does Women in Product have some kind of global meetup, like a centralized one, like once a year, or it's like mainly locally?
Yeah, so Women in Product is going to have an in-person conference this year in California. So there are conferences. Last year we did a virtual one, still kind of coming out of COVID and figuring out, right, like, are we going to go back to in-person? So there are sort of these bigger conferences. If you're interested, let me know, point you to the information if you'd like to travel.
Thanks. Cool.
Okay. I feel like I could talk for the next 30 minutes about what us Women in Technology has planned. So next week, we have an event that's focused on real-world AI use cases, where we will have some fabulous female speakers talk about how they've been implementing AI, and then they will have breakout sessions. So it'll be 10 to 15 people. You get to talk one-on-one with those speakers and learn about AI. Every month we have an event, and each event we try to either have a panel or a speaker or something that's not just talking at you, but really trying to start conversations where you can, give you topics to talk amongst yourselves, giving you networking opportunities and icebreakers. So like last month we talked about risk. Women tend to be less risky than men, and so we gave people topics along financial risks and career risks and have people talk about that. In July, we will be having sessions about learning how to be a better networker. And it'll be almost like a career fair. We'll have some recruiting agencies there, so you can learn some networking skills and then practice them on some recruiting agencies to help you find jobs. We're also starting a master class on epigenetics and leading during difficult times. So helping you lead through maybe traumas that have happened in your own life or in your ancestors' lives, right, and becoming a better leader. We'll also be starting a mentorship program. If you're interested in that, we'll be bringing cohorts of people together with a mentor leading groups and trying to help people find jobs and get further in their career. We try and do a lot of services for women and for allies of women. It's not just for women in tech, it's for people who care about women in tech. So you can either be in a tech role, you can be in a tech adjacent role, or you can identify as something other than female and come because you want to support and understand the issues that women in tech face. So
tons of amazing stuff coming up. Wtech has its events every 2 months. We're taking a short break for summer. Our next event is going to be early September, but in the meantime, you have tons of great gatherings and events to go to, legit. Confirmed. You can see the people. You can see other people that went into event. It's not a sect. Well, in a way, you get very loyal to them and you want to participate more. You get addicted. So thank you very much. First of all, thank you to our speakers for showing up, taking your time and sharing with our community, and also bringing your community, as Cherie said, cross-pollinating people. We'd like to open now the time for you to network and share what you care about, what's your ask, or how you can help, and we'll be happy to see you again in our events. We will try to, in our follow-up email, we will try to include all of the resources that our speakers shared. If you lead the organization, I know there are a couple of leaders for other organizations here today, feel free to share, respond to the email, or if you know me or any other partners here, reach out to us and send the links to and information about your organization. We'd love to share that in the follow-up email and then share with other leaders who then can share with their communities. Always open to that. And yeah, thank you very much for our speakers. Let's applause one more time. Yeah, and yeah, feel free to hang out a little bit. And one more thing, if you haven't received your validation parking, if you parked here, please find Lucy.
And let's do the photo.
Yeah, just a picture.
With the chair. Okay, let's do photo. Come here, please.
A quick picture.
Yeah. That's going to be tough.
Are we going to do it this way?
Nice to see you.
The photographers.
We'll get there. Okay.
Is it?
I tagged you on the LinkedIn. Yeah.
Yeah. travel, my family, they don't pay the updates. And the better technology got, the more they're like, push the updates. Like, I kind of take that.
I'm teaching my partners early on. I did underration to check in. And then it looks like sometimes it's cool, but it's just fun. So more and more, like I go, check earlier. I like working, I don't know, 18 hours. Very early, I do a long day, and then I have a dinner, which is basically what, right? Like when people when we shop for the and then I go to the hotel room and like the last thing I want to do is really nice getting text messages on my phone. Sleep, you know? We'll see in the morning, then work. Go to
Audience research. I'm putting that on my resume. I learned audience
What is your take then? Why should they be creative? Why should they be telling stories? Because you need to what's in it for that, right? Cool, I'm telling a story. Maybe I'm getting over stage fright, but your way. It's not about me telling you the stories the right way or the wrong way. It's about you have a voice. You're smart human being. Something like that. Something to give you the platform. And so that's this is why you need it. This is why you need it. Oh yeah, no, that's exactly what I'm saying in different words. And so yeah, run it by a thing. Right? So that's going to do a lot of curious. Okay, I feel like you did. Stop you like that. That's not the stage. Why not? Now, why that's appealing? Not? Okay. It's scary. Let's make it less scary. Interesting for you. Why do you need to stay focused? Audience and you together to help them help them in a way. I'm not saying that you're open to the possibility that you'll find like these too scary. I'm not just speaking. It's speaking with action and not a language. Like it's just like another level. Or you will find like people just going and say this or that. So maybe that's another format. Like you have a little everybody does a little thing whenever something happens. Right? But come on, make it fun. They wanted to work on paper every time I could, and I was like, I'm like, man, having experience.
That's great.
Trapped by the wall, but I wanted to say hi. Can I move that over? They don't want us to go over there. I'm like, migrating there. I was just telling her that she's very right because like she's on the front organizing this event and then she said she just got into that May 2021 was when she first got into that channel, so it's like just 4 years. It's really inspiring coming from are you talking about the Wtech? Yes. Like when I thought it was Wtech, what to do, like what are the guys. That was great. But I think like a lot of my personality, but also war, something that I can celebrate with. I felt like I really got it every day, and I felt like it every day. And also like a lot of jokes of like, oh, some people left because like taking Ukraine, like soldiers are fighting every day, so I actually invite you to leave. So like, how can I make people like not wasting time? Sometimes I do overdo it, and I actually have to go down and like, like it's okay, I'm just doing it, like down. But I think like that acceleration is like how to make every day count. And it has to like, I think to what's out there. I do a journalism project where I do like touch products for money and do their interview questions. I love to interview, especially the nature story of your yeah, sure, yeah. I'm standing here. About 100%. I love this skirt. Oh, thank you. Oh, I live here. I don't know why this is okay. Like blurry or something? Okay, you're sorry. Is it something around like filter? No, I was sorry. I was on the Wtech technology. Wow. No, but it was so the group was winning technology. So we did it in Austin. Austin winning technology, which is like what you see. And that's when I was on the technology in, just specifically, not I'm aging myself. I'm kind of curious as to. I always like. I love that story. I love stories because like I grew up in a like I know examples. I don't know what to say. My mom would always like you should be like I kind of think like oh I don't know anything now. Like knowing that like people also 10 years back wearing the technology wear it. I'm saying if they should more into success with I saw, I don't know if it was a Women in Technology, it was a female. I got my first job there. And I thought it's getting like reorganized within organizations. I haven't gotten out much, but it has some money that's women It's like aging myself. This was before we had sand on the stuff. Right? This was like, actually the new Yeah. We were like, so I'm wondering if that even like comes out. Yeah, there you go. Switch yours Healthy? Really? That was ages ago. Aging myself, but I've been involved in so long. So in 2010, we went into business So I can, isn't that funny? Well, I know, I've been to a couple women in technology things. I was on the board for so long, and I was volunteering for so long, and I just kind of like to do this. Well, I need to be more of a participant. I need to I stopped because both my parents, like before when they got COVID, they both had cancer and everything. My dad has since passed. But I mean, it just everything kind of shifted because of COVID. I was really getting out more and doing things pre-COVID, and after that, starting to get out there. Let's hope we get the I mean, I would like to be around with more women. Like you've seen all the other like we are doing events like every other month. So you do both. You do the Wtech and the Women Tech. That's one thing. Like AWTs, like I'm just a member. Sometimes they do right. Like it's partner investment. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's just like double tech. Right. But there's also a global organization, Women in Tech. Okay. So I'm educating myself. Suggestions on like financial. There's also. Thank you very much. It was great. Down to earth, which is also so important. Somebody become a marketer, like marketing other people or other technology. It's amazing.
And I told them we actually didn't have enough people that like because people sign up they don't show up. They didn't just sign up to save their spot, but then they're like, yes, we can't actually make it. And I told them overfilled by much more, and they were like, oh, we're scared, and then like
exactly. We had some NPC spots. So, and I was sad because people wanted to come, and I was like, I told you.
Yeah, that's good to hear. It's so perspective. Like I work in university and I tried to balance if you're like calling there, there's like gonna be a lot of people who are out of here, like already like negotiate and like whatever. Like they're like, there's like if like you need so many like senior qualities to be on those premises, and it's like our events could be
Yeah, that's where you need like people who are interested.
Yes, or like small technology is alive right now. I've actually stable jobs.
Yeah, it's a big industry.
I'm going to dash out and everybody would say thank you to everybody. And then
It's a mess everywhere, to be fair, but I feel like you
want to collaborate on, great. If it's later in the year, great.
It's kind of
We love collaboration.
Yeah, same, like, it really works. I think that was the biggest
Thank you so much. You have a great day. Bye. Thank you.
I don't know what's about marketing, have they turned off when you need
Okay.
always, yeah, well, actually, you always used to be out like but they stop it no matter how technology, I don't think like, street store, okay, then it's just yeah, I sure it is. Oh yeah, you're passionate. Oh, it's not that much. You would, and the glasses. Oh, well, the glasses are because I have double vision. So I look like, oh, both eyes open. Yeah. But maybe potentially well, I mean, like, I was telling you earlier, I was at HB. Yeah. But,
Does she understand? Where do you
Normally I drive everywhere, right?
Oh, yeah. So there's reasons or?
I was totally driving. Yeah, she did marketing. She did start with advertising.
I don't know anything that has to do with advertising.
Not always as many, or I found that maybe they're the co-founder.
They were better. They were better.
They were much better back in the day. Yeah, they were like very.
They're getting kind of sloppy now.
Oh, I enjoy it. Yes.